Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Avidan. Nice to have you here. We are here again live on our Facebook and other platforms to talk about our CBT certification with Evergreen. So, individuals, if you want to learn more about this particular certification, you can scan the QR code or utilize the link evcert.com/Avidan CBT. And Avidan is one of the advisors on the board that developed this particular certification with Evergreen. So I just want to turn it over to him in order to introduce himself and share some details before we jump into questions.
That's great. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Much appreciated. So my name is Dr. Avidan Milevsky. I have a doctorate in psychology. I work in academia for part of the week, and part of the week I work in a clinic. Primarily, I apply CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, in the application of multiple client difficulties, be it mood disorders, through personality disorders, family dynamics, even, as I'm sure we're going to explore over the next little while. CBT has such a vast application, and we try to apply that. In practice, my practice is actually, I have two practices internationally. One of them is in Baltimore, Maryland. And then I also do some cross-cultural research and clinical work across the ocean in the Middle East. I'm currently in Israel doing some work over here as well. I split my time. So I get to do CBT cross-culturally as well, which is a fascinating process.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. So we'll jump right in. The first question is, why should a professional get certified in CBT?
So first of all, as we know, and I'm a bit biased, I'm a researcher primarily in a big part of my week, and how important it is for us to apply research-based solutions to mental health problems. Right? Psychology has offered therapy for more than 100 years, since Freud and on. And thankfully, we've reached a point in mental health services that we could apply interventions that are research-based, interventions that we know actually work, considering and based on all this research that has been done on these particular interventions. Cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, is the most research-based intervention you could apply. It works. It's very, very effective across difficulties that clients present with. Applying cognitive behavior therapy well and correctly can actually improve their lives in significant ways, which is why, again, if you want to work in a therapy that actually serves your client, CBT is the way to go. And often in graduate school, you dab in CBT, you learn all these other techniques and personality theories and development, psychopathology, psychopharmacology. But in terms of actually solidifying everything that we know from that base in graduate school, and then actually apply it with our clients, a certification that actually kind of coalesces all of this to actually directly talk about how do we now apply this consistently with clients. That's what a certificate in CBT offers us. And that's what Evergreen offers us. I think it's a very, very powerful tool. It coalesces everything that we know, and we could actually offer something very, very effective to our clients.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. You mentioned something there that I would like a little bit more details on. Applying CBT correctly. Can you elaborate on correct CBT versus incorrect CBT for me?
Good question. Good question. So obviously, even in graduate school, or you hear different seminars or different ideas online about this is CBT, and often it's very, very limited in the way it's presented, and it offers and often it breeds misconceptions about CBT. CBT is not just about think more positively about the world. That's such a minor component to it. It's such an infrastructure, the application of CBT. So offering it correctly is, yes, understanding the theoretical foundation behind it, but then understanding the many, many advances that are happening literally on a weekly basis in terms of advances in research-based application. So to really do this correctly, you have to have this kind of coalescing educational experience, which is what a certificate offers you. And that's really to do it more correctly as opposed to dabbing in it in a way that's not really consistent.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that nuance there. Next question. What is unique about this certification? Pretty much what knowledge will professionals gain by obtaining this credential?
So I think the beauty of what Evergreen has to offer is this great combination of core concepts, truly understanding the core theory and technique involved, and then seeing how this applies with the multiple client difficulties, but then adding to it this application component. And we're going to talk in a little while about the actual one-on-one work that you do with advisors and actually clinical case reports. And that's really the application of it. So the beauty of what's offered over here is to really understand the base of where this is coming from. A good theoretical understanding of CBT is important. Again, we're not just dabbing, we're not just taking 10 tips that I picked up from a little booklet as I checked that from a supermarket. This is a real deep understanding of what the structure of cognitive behavior therapy is. This certificate offers it. But again, it also offers the application part. How do I actually apply this with client difficulties tomorrow in my practice? That's the beauty of what's being offered here.
Wonderful. Thank you. Another question for you. What professionals is this certification for?
So anyone who wants to kind of apply CBT in their practice could very much gain from this. So obviously you have like the standards. If you're a psychologist, if you're a counselor, if you're a social worker, you're a marriage and family therapist, those are obviously the common ones. If you're a licensed creative art therapist or an addiction counselor, these are people who are applying CBT quite consistently. And for them, this is clearly a great blessing. But I would
Mm.
even add to it people who are even nurses or medical professionals, psychiatrists. So maybe they're not doing CBT full time with their clients, but knowing how CBT works can help in many, many different ways in terms of motivating clients. So even if you're an ER doctor and you think, well, I don't do CBT, well, we want to motivate our clients as medical professionals. CBT has very, very concrete ways in which we can motivate clients or have them follow a treatment protocol. Well, how do we do that? Well, guess what? CBT has those tools to use. So many professionals beyond the kind of traditional helping professionals can also benefit from the certificate.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Wow, this is such great insight in regards to everything about this particular certification so far. And our next question just dives into it even further, as you were making reference to it earlier. The CBT certification requires applicants to present two clinical case studies in a CBT focused case review consultation session. How will completing these case reviews help enhance a clinician's practice?
So it's that great bridge, and I offer this consultation as well. I'm one of the several consultants that Evergreen has that offer this service for those who are gaining the certification. But it's always a trick. How do you create that bridge between a true understanding of the core concepts and the application, right? You study about it, you talk about it, but then how do you actually apply it tomorrow morning in practice?
Mm.
And the beauty of presenting two clinical cases where you basically are working in the field and you have to apply CBT, and then you have to sit with these consultants and try to understand how you applied it, some tips in terms of how to apply it a bit more consistently, or getting kind of a give and take or discussing it with a consultant also helps us understand the material in a much greater way. So I see this clinical case presentations as an integral part of really taking the core concepts and really understanding it. But then I'm now applying it in session. I'm using it with my clients. Is this the way to do it? So, well, you have now two opportunities to sit down with a consultant to really kind of have that give and take, to really try to understand, well, how does this work for me? And ultimately, our own personalities play a role a little bit in terms of how do we apply this. So although it's a very, very clear treatment protocol, CBT, but the bottom line is our own stuff sometimes plays a role in terms of our own assertiveness, for example, or
Mm.
our ability of telling clients, hey, here's some homework assignments. I don't know, maybe I had some homework issues when I was a kid, and I may not have that ability of applying it the way I should objectively apply it. So having this clinical case presentation really helps that bridge that gap between an understanding and an actual application in practice.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so happy that they applied that to this particular certification because that's very, very important when working on developing skills around a modality. Next question. After your initial 3 year certification period, renewal is required. Why is it important for professionals to maintain their knowledge in this area?
So I think it's an integral part of CBT. The beauty of CBT is that it's very research based. And
Mhm.
as we know, when it comes to research, there's constant developments and kind of new additions to that core kind of structure of cognitive behavior therapy. So, for example, applying mindfulness into CBT is kind of a developing process. Understanding how to work with trauma. There's constantly new information, new studies out there that are being presented at international conferences and at journals devoted to CBT that are explaining about some of these new developments in terms of repeat exposure, trauma work, narrative trauma work. There's a lot of stuff happening literally on a weekly basis. There's new things going on, which is why it's very important to renew. Meaning, if you want to hold on to what we learned in the past, it can be very, very useful, but you really want to be cutting edge. You really want to know what the developments are currently. So, kind of the renewal process helps us stay fresh, knowing what's out there in the field currently, and you could apply it in much more meaningful ways, and you could help your clients in more meaningful ways.
Awesome. And last but not least, why were you passionate about being an Evergreen approved consultant and an advisor for this certification?
So since graduate school, and to be honest with you, early on in my graduate career, I was leaning towards more of a psychodynamic orientation. But I wised up over time and realized that, particularly, I was coming from an academic kind of environment, that intervention needs to be kind of research based and to really have the most recent developments in data driven answers was I was very passionate about that. So, which is why even right out of graduate school, I kind of veered towards cognitive behavior interventions. But in terms of finding a place where you can now, all right, I graduated, I did my degree, I even have licensing in my state board, and I'm working now. And is there some kind of community or some kind of place where I could come and understand latest developments and talk to people about the field, and not going back to where I was learning in graduate school? We are some kind of like an advanced environment with people who are already in the session, in the field, understanding the field. And that's what I found really in the Evergreen people and the colleagues that we're working with. And it was very refreshing for me to see, well, how is it being applied in different parts of the world, different parts of the United States? Very, very useful. And hence, kind of bringing this all together and having one location where you could have a certificate, constantly renew it, constantly learn new things. I was passionate about it when I left graduate school. I finally found a place where I could actually apply this in practice. So it was very, very meaningful for me, and I'm delighted to really be part of this process.
Awesome. And again, thank you so much. We truly appreciate all of your expertise and the support that you have given us in the development of this certification, and also to a lot of our customers who have been coming in and getting certified, and you providing them with that consultation. So thank you so much. And that brings us to a close for today. And just